Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, January 13th, and I am purposefully making this video before the 15th, which is the air date for Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And I'm doing this very particularly because, unlike most people, except for selected reviewers and that kind of stuff, I haven't seen it. And I want to make these statements before I see it because and I mention this a lot, people who have watched this over and over again. There is the real fans or the old school fans. And these fans have put their mark on a particular IP, in this case, Star Trek, and said, this is what Star Trek is. And in the case of Star Trek, it's usually Deep Space Nine, Voyager, to some degree Enterprise, and of course, the original series and the Next Generation. This is Star Trek, and this is what we accept, and the movies to some degree too. And there has been a great deal of hatred for this new series that, besides a few clips that we've seen, we don't know much about it. And let me say first, I'm an old school fan. I cut my teeth with Dr. McCoy, Spock, and Kirk. And I wasn't a huge Next Generation just because, for whatever reason, I just never got around to watch it. I was a little older by that time. I think I was in the service for the most part, and I just didn't watch that much TV. I did watch all of Voyager and all of Enterprise just because it was like, I miss Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and we watched it. So I have some knowledge of the franchise. And, I'm looking at stuff that's come out, and it's not like old Trek. Now, unlike the real fans, I'm not putting this label up. That's not Trek. This is not my Trek. I have got to a point where I can accept that things change. Things changing is the nature of the universe. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand, that things change and that you can't have a new TV show mirror what came out in the 1960s. It's just two different worlds. You can't do some of the things and some of the things that we don't want to do. People are looking for that feeling, that nostalgia, that, youthful energy that they had. And that's what they want this new Trek to give them. Now, the new Treks, Discovery, Strange New World, and now this show that hasn't come out yet, is not giving that energy. There is a lot of things that just come down to people saying woke. And I've made my opinion about woke quite plain. My biggest problem with woke is, what is woke? No one really wants to say that. No one wants to answer that. So that woke becomes this just nebulous thing that's whatever I don't like is woke. And that doesn't sit okay with me. So I've come up with my own definition, is that it's non-straight, non-white, non-male. If it fits in any of those categories or all three, it's woke. And that seems to be what it is. And nobody really wants to say that, and I can't respect it. If that's what you believe, as for racist and prejudice as it is, at least be an adult about it and say so. Hey, before we go any further, I really want to thank you for joining me on my latest video. I really appreciate it. I'm not doing this for money or anything. I'm just trying to get out there and talk about the things that I enjoy: sci-fi, action movies, comic books, whatever it is that comes across. I really would like for you to check out my UrbanKnights Thriller series. It's an action thriller series that belongs right up there with Lee Childs and Mark Graney, all those kind of guys. And it involves Jordan Noble, an operative of the Defense Intelligence Agency, who leaves the service under somewhat mysterious circumstances and returns back home to Detroit, teams up with some of his old friends, and forms the UrbanKnights Detective Agency. Now, these guys fight the crimes no one else will face in and around the city of Detroit. Some of them are really local street-based crimes. Others are international thrillers involving terrorists and arms dealers. Anything you can think of. So, hey, check them out. First one's free. Go over to AuthorJamesHRoby.com. Check out the first one. If you like it, you know what? Try some other ones, leave some reviews, and enjoy the rest of this video. Well, whatever. That's a topic for another day. And in that vein of, it's woke, I can't feel the same kind of dismissal for this show that hasn't even aired yet. But to be quite honest, I don't think it's going to be very good. And I say that from the point of view of, it seems like beyond the cast, I'm going to put the cast aside for now, there is a great deal of, let's make this different. And some of the things I noticed just from the clips, and this is me as an older African-American, this is me as a veteran looking at this show. And one of the problems I've always had with Star Trek was this insistence that Starfleet wasn't the military. And they've always been the body that came to the defense of the Federation. And I can accept that their primary mission is exploration and all that kind of stuff. But scarcely an episode goes by before someone's firing a phaser. Sounds like the military to me. But that aside, we are being introduced to this Starfleet in a very different world. For those who don't know, and I don't know a lot about it because I watched a couple episodes and I just couldn't do it anymore. In Discovery, they introduced, so in season 2, at the end of the season, they propel, I think, 400 years into the future. And when they discover Starfleet, it's been decimated. Something called the burn has happened, and it's made it impossible for faster than light travel. There's some things that happen because of that, and that's kind of where I punched out. Michael Burnham was doing Michael Burnham, and I don't want to talk about that, but it turned me off. I didn't watch anymore. So this is post that, and apparently from some of the things I read, they've overcome this burn issue, and I guess they can use warp speed again. I don't know. And I'm not one of those guys that eat and breathe every single thing that comes out about Star Trek, but I'm willing to wait and see what happens during the show. So they're like the first class of Starfleet Academy after all this has happened. And Starfleet Academy is back. And we got this wacky bunch of kids. And like I said, I'm gonna put aside the cast. Well, some of the things I've seen so far is this kind of like non-military approach to a military situation. So this is a Starfleet Academy. There's, starships and weapons and all that kind of stuff. And they're just not acting in that environment. And this is coming from somebody who's been in that environment. And I don't know if we're supposed to acknowledge that or recognize that. It is 800 years in the future. Maybe things have changed, but it doesn't ring as an environment where military actions and military capabilities and military discipline is involved. So that's making me go, because without that, Captain Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard and Cisco, definitely Janeway, we're all in that. There's a chain of command, there's a structure. I'm in charge. What I say goes. And it seems like we're getting away from that. And in this particular show, there seems to be a connection between the captain, who's also, I don't know if she's in charge of Starfleet Academy, but her ship is like a mobile campus. And then they run into Avengers. And it just that framework is making me go, ugh. Now, combine that with the cast. The cast is kind of strange. One of the things I noticed about Strange New Worlds is that I was watching it one day because I kind of punched out because that's the second season of Discovery. I was kind of turned off from Star Trek. But I said, I'll check this out. I've been hearing good things about it. And I'm watching an episode. And I remember noticing that Spock wasn't on the bridge. It was just Captain Pike and the rest of the bridge crew. And I said, there was a woman except for Captain Pike. And I thought that was cool because it was like, it wasn't this moment of girl power. Oh, you're another one here. And no one said anything about it. They were just all doing their jobs. And I thought like that's the way you approach this thing. You don't have to be beating your chest about it. Majority of the cast is female. That does cause for some kind of like, a different vibe, a different flavor. And I'm just a guy. We went from a show that was predominantly male to one that's predominantly female. And it's kind of like, an adjustment. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like, it's just like, this is not what I expected. And I felt like as far as that aspect is concerned, for the most part, Strange New Worlds handled it pretty well. There's never, after I got off of myself, there's never a moment I was like, oh, they're so girly and they're doing this. It's just like they're all female. There's some other issues about Strange New Worlds I don't like, but they're carrying that over into Starfleet Academy. And we got to be honest about it. That's going to be problematic. You have a mostly male audience who's resisting it. And people are quite vocal on the internet that they don't like that. And that's where the whole cry of woke comes from and everything. And every clip I've seen just kind of made me go, this is not what a academy element would. It doesn't fit with what I know of military training. So I'm trying to be accepting and understanding and realizing that, this is a new world. This is a new Star Trek. I just got to deal with it. So unlike a lot of people, there are podcasters or whatever you call them, YouTubers, who that is their whole mission. Every time they get a tiny nugget about Starfleet Academy, they just run into the ground. Look at this. And, this whole thing about the Jemadar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, how could she possibly be female? And then the immediate thing's like, it's been 800 years. You don't think anything's happened? I mean, this is not me making an excuse for this show or anything. It's just like, at least give it a chance. The whole thing about, oh, the captain wears glasses. Yeah, that's weird. But, you don't know what's going on. I mean, we were okay when Admiral Kirk had his glasses on. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe it's tied to the burn in particular. I don't know. I mean, but the point is that people have decided I don't like it, and nothing you do will change me from that point, and they can't wait to diss it. So here I am, 2 days before it comes out, talking to you guys, saying I'm going to give it a chance. I'm definitely going to watch it. I mean, I got my Thursday looking kind of packed, but I'm gonna, I'm gonna go in and hopefully get a chance to talk to you guys again and tell you what I think. I'm not expecting to like it very much, not because of this weird cast, and it is weird. You got Klingons in dress and people who are speaking dead languages, and this main character who's just doing this I'm not following the rule things. I mean, it's just everything is turning me off. But I'm gonna give it a chance. And I'll probably watch a couple episodes. I'll probably watch the whole season just to see. But yeah, it's giving me the ick. I ain't saying it, but it does. But I'm not gonna just out ahead dismiss it. I'm gonna try it. It is, we have to acknowledge that it's very different from regular Trek. And as such, there's some things that are just kind of like, I don't know. But I'm not going to call it woke because I don't know what any of these situations are. I don't care who's gay because there are gay people in the world. Now, is everybody's gay or, multiple characters are gay or some kind of, on the sexual spectrum? That might be a problem. But we'll see. And that's not me not liking gay people. That's me looking at the real world and saying, like, this doesn't reflect reality. And it's not supposed to. It's fiction. I get it. I don't know. But still, you got to have some sort of touchstone and stone. And if it doesn't have that, it's going to. I mean, I feel like even having this conversation, I want to come across as I'm doubtful of the show's success because it's saying it's Star Trek, but it's looking more like 90210. Those shows are for different demographics, and to try to put the label of one on the other, it's just, it's not going to work. And I understand that people are upset about that. I do. But I hate when people just out of hand label it woke and just like, oh, let me tell you how horrible this thing is going to be. And I mean, I'm telling you, that's the lifeblood of a lot of, go to YouTube and put in Star Trek. I mean, people are upset about something that hasn't even happened yet. So, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see what it is. And if it's good, I'll gladly eat crows. Like, oh, I like that. But if it's not, I'm going to tell you that. And my experience with pop culture and science fiction and Star Trek in particular, I don't think this is gonna scratch that itch or it's not gonna be. It's going to be an odd piece in this jigsaw of Star Trek. So we'll just have to see. But until they, I'm holding. I have my reservations, but I'm holding judgment. I'm hoping it's great. I don't want Star Trek to be bad. It's like, politics. I don't want our country to do bad. I always want good things. But, we'll see in a couple of days.